Focusing on working with real estate investors can be a massive opportunity for realtors. It can also be a massive waste of your time. Today we're going to talk about the pros and cons of working with investors, how to generate real estate investor leads for free, and the only type of real estate investor I will currently work with. Let's get into it. Welcome back to Freedom Agents. My name is Marc Brenner, and one of the main reasons I chose to get my real estate license was to become a real estate investor. I looked at it as a great opportunity to simultaneously learn about real estate and a way to generate capital to purchase future deals. And honestly, I don't regret that decision one bit. And because of that, when I got my license, I focused almost exclusively on targeting real estate investors. Now, I have learned a lot since then. That was about 6 years ago. And to be honest, focusing on real estate investors is still a huge opportunity. But what I've learned is if you're not careful, this can be a massive, massive waste of your time. And there are specific types of investors that you should not waste your time talking with. So let's discuss the real pros and cons of working with investors. Then I'm going to tell you how to generate leads if you're still interested in working with them. And I'm also going to share with you at the end the only type of investor you should be focused on. So let's talk about the pros first. Now, if you pull up an older video where I talk exclusively about working with investors, I lay out the case of why this is such a massive opportunity. And there's a lot of good nuggets in there. So I would definitely recommend, if this is the area you want to focus on, go check out that video. But here's what I said then, and honestly, all of those same things are genuinely true right now. So first of all, this is a massively underserved niche, okay? The majority of real estate agents have not worked with investors, and they honestly don't have the skills to be able to provide investors value, okay? Now, this should spell opportunity for you. Why? Because it's a barrier to entry. Anytime in life and in business especially, if you notice a barrier to entry, that is an opportunity for you to do the work that others will not, and therefore provide value that others cannot provide. So later in the video, when we're talking about how to generate leads, I'm going to dive deeper into how to provide investors value. So don't worry, we'll come back to that. But let's stick with the pros. First of all, it's a massively underserved niche. Second, the sales process for investors is totally different than on the retail side with someone looking to buy or sell their primary residence. Those people typically buy or sell maybe once every 5 to 7 years. Obviously, with investors, especially ones that are experienced and have access to capital, these people will buy as many great deals as you can bring to them, okay? I mean, I have investor clients that I've helped close 5, 6, even 10 deals in 1 year. So one great investor client can represent a huge influx of business for you. Another huge pro of working with investors is that in order to serve them, you will be forced to educate yourself about this space. If you have any intention of doing investing yourself, this can be a great dual purpose track for you. You can be learning and studying and simultaneously increase your value to these people, but also when the time comes for you to start your investments, when you have the capital, you are going to have a lot of very useful knowledge to do that. So in terms of educating yourself, it's one of the most beneficial things you can spend your time doing. Another pro of working investors would be that these leads are very easy to generate, and we're going to get into that, but it's not even really comparable to retail buyers and sellers, which is genuinely difficult to do, and that's really what this channel is all about, generating leads. How do we find buyers and sellers that are willing to speak with us, that want to reach out to us and work with us? This is very, very easy with investors when you have a few skills and you know how to market to them. So very easy to generate leads. Honestly, a day one brand new real estate agent could use some of these tactics I'm going to talk about and get in touch with investors on day one, legitimate investors. Now, what that turns into depends on a lot of different factors, but all I'm trying to point out in terms of bridging that gap of actually speaking with a potential client, it is way easier to do than on the retail side. And the last big pro that I'll mention is when you're targeting investors and you eventually connect with them, a lot of these people are high net worth individuals, right? They may be purchasing multiple deals a year. If they're local, they may also be wanting to use you to help them sell their current residence or buy a new primary residence. And even if they're not in state, the bottom line is, when you're focusing on this market and you're connecting with these people, some of these relationships can be extremely fruitful for the long term. You only need one or two legit players in this industry, people who have a lot of capital, experience, who want to execute. If you can provide them value and develop a good relationship and execute for them, that is going to be an extremely lucrative long-term relationship. All right, now let's talk about the cons. I'm going to be really blunt and honest here, and then you can decide if you're willing to still focus on this group of people. But I promise you, this is based on experience, okay? I'm not trying to discourage you or tell you you can't be successful with investors. I am trying to relay to you my actual experience and how you can avoid having your time wasted. So I am going to touch on the cons. It doesn't mean it's not a good opportunity. It just means you have to go about it the right way. So the number one con, the reality of working with real estate investors, is that there are two of the most common types that you're going to encounter. They represent, honestly, probably 85% of the entire pool of investors you'll ever connect with. They fall into one of two categories. The first category is that they are so green, they are so new, they have not purchased their first investment property yet. They are still at the point of researching markets, and they are highly unlikely, number one, to ever close a deal, because the reality is, in real estate investing, the majority of people like the idea of it, okay? They may listen to the podcast, they may educate themselves, they may look for deals, but I don't have statistics on this, but I think it's fairly obvious that the majority of people who are interested in this world don't end up pulling the trigger, right? For whatever reason. Now, some of the people in this group will, over time, gain the knowledge and finally pull the trigger. But this group, group one, is so green that they are going to do nothing but waste your time and try to extract every piece of knowledge that you have, and then you will never hear from them again. Listen to me when I tell you, I promise this will happen if you pursue this niche, if you use the tactics I'm going to share with you to generate free real estate investor leads. You are going to get in touch with people, they are going to book a meeting with you, and they are going to say this to you: I am interested in your market. I am looking for good deals. I would like you to tell me what the up-and-coming neighborhoods are that are great places to invest, that are going to appreciate like crazy, that are going to cash flow. And listen, this was my mistake. I'm sharing with you, so just don't be like me. I was excited to talk with potential clients. I love talking about real estate investing. I love talking about my city, Atlanta, and I know a lot about it. So I would have meeting after meeting where I would pour out all the knowledge I have, not only about real estate investing, but about my local market, right? All the up and coming neighborhoods that I know, all the different areas that would work for different types of investments. And I would never hear from these people again. Now, of course, there's a lot of things that I could have done to change that, and that's what we're going to talk about today. But these people are so, if you want to talk about a sales funnel, that's probably a great way to think about this. I mean, these people aren't even really in the sales funnel. They're so high up in the sales funnel. And I'm a fan for marketing to the top of the sales funnel, especially in retail. But these people really don't know anything about real estate investing. And I don't say that to be harsh or talk down to them. But if you go back to the questions I just told you they ask, first of all, a generic question like, where should I invest, is not a good question, because the reality is there are so many different ways to invest in real estate. It comes down to things like risk tolerance, exit strategy, and your overall investment philosophy, right? It's a lot like any other type of investment you would do. It's like saying, what is the best stock that I should invest in? Well, are you day trading, or do you want an index fund? What's your risk tolerance, right? So it's a very ineffective question, and this should be a red flag for you if you're having conversations, which you will, and they're saying these types of things. Additionally, you want to be in an up-and-coming market, but you don't want to be in like a gentrifying area that still has some crime. Like, that makes no sense. You cannot have all these simultaneous things. There is no neighborhood that has good schools, is safe, is up and coming, will have great appreciation and great cash flow, and somehow the prices are low enough where you can get a great deal there. I mean, that just does not exist. So an experienced investor is going to know what they're looking for. They're going to have a philosophy, and they're going to ask you specific things about how they can find those types of deals. So whatever you do, honestly, if you take away anything from this video, if you go down this path, please do not sit with these investors and pour your heart out, everything that you know to them, because they are not going to buy a deal in your area. And, I would say not a red flag, but if they're not in your state, and if they've never been to your city, they are way, way, way less likely to ever pull the trigger on something like this, because they have a complete lack of confidence, because they have a complete lack of knowledge. And what's going to happen is if you stick with these people and you go through this process, they're going to say, well, find me a good deal. Here's my budget. You're going to break your back trying to look for a deal on the MLS, which isn't going to happen because across the country, we're pretty much in a seller's market. Inventory is down. Good deals are not easy to find, okay? And so trust me, you do not want to be doing showings, even if they're virtual tours for these people, so that they can look at they don't know anything about the property or the neighborhood, right? So just really think about how your time is spent with these people and ask yourself if it's worth it. It's probably not. Now that's one group, and that's the overwhelming majority. And these are people that are easy to recognize because they ask bad questions, and you should really protect your time with these people. And it's so funny to me. I think it was my last investment focused video. Someone was like, oh, but it's your job as a realtor to provide these people value and all the information. It's like, are we not running a business? In what world, in what business do you work with clients who are never likely to actually utilize your services to the point where you earn a commission and you just share everything with them and don't have any boundaries on your time? How are you going to run a successful business without having any boundaries on your time? Come on. So anyway, that's the first group. You can tell how I feel about them. The second group is so experienced. They have so many deals under their belt. They know exactly what they're looking for. And the only thing they're reaching out to you for is deal flow, right? They want to know if you have off-market properties. They want to know who the best wholesalers are in your area. Maybe they want to know vendors. They are looking for something very specific. But at the end of the day, what they probably want you to do is, again, go do a bunch of showings and put in a bunch of lowball offers. Now, look, I don't have a problem with putting in lowball offers. And again, I've done all the things that I'm describing to you, right? So there's no judgment. But offers take a long time to write. And if you're looking at something and you're like, you spoke with the agent and you're trying to do a lowball offer and it's been on the market for 5 days, it's like you are wasting your time, right? Use your head. Lowball offers only make sense in certain scenarios, like with homes that have been on the market for a very long time. So anyway, this second group, they're probably high net worth. They're a lot of experience. They know what they're looking for, which is great, but they want deals. And at this point, it's probably not something you can provide them. Look, listen to this. At the end of the day, for real estate investing, no matter what strategy you take, it's very, very simple, okay? Which is one of the reasons I really like it, because it's easy to learn. The only thing real estate investing is really about is finding good deals, meaning literally, this is all real estate investing is. Purchasing a property for less than the market value, and very often doing repairs to increase the value at such a point where the return is X, right? Whether you exit completely and you just take the capital, or whether you take out your equity and apply it to another deal. At the end of the day, it's purchasing real estate at a discount. That's all they're trying to do. Now, if you have experience wholesaling, this could be a great combination for you, right? If you already have a successful wholesaling company or business, even if it's just yourself, this second group could be very lucrative for you. Extremely lucrative, and you do want to talk with these people. But if you're a newer agent, or you're just an agent who really does not have a pipeline to legitimately good deals, off-market deals, outside of the MLS, you probably should not waste your time with this second group. And again, I'm going to tell you at the end of the video who you should spend your time speaking with, but just know that if you get excited because they want to, you can spend all your time looking for good deals. And honestly, it wouldn't be the worst thing you could do. Again, that is going to increase your experience and knowledge for when you want to invest. So it's not a total waste of time, but especially in the supply-demand market that we're currently in, finding good deals is extremely hard. So if you don't have experience doing that, you should probably generally avoid this group. All right, so now you know the good, bad, and the ugly about working with investors. I'm gonna talk about the third group at the end of this video, but now I wanna get into how to generate free investor leads. So if you heard everything I said, and you still want to focus on this niche because you're going to be prepared and protect your time, or just because you want to waste your time, then here is how you generate these leads. Listen, This is very easy to do. So again, this is one of the pros of working with investors. It's one of the easiest ways to generate leads. Well, the first thing you have to do is educate yourself. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but we spoke about a barrier to entry, and the reality is you need to put in the time and effort and energy to educate yourself so that you can serve these people at a high level. The good news is it's really not hard to do. Real estate investing can get very complicated when you get into like syndicates and, all these different high level stuff. You're not going to be worried about that at first. You don't need to know like all the most crazy terminology, but you do need to know the framework, okay? So you need to educate yourself. Here are the best ways to educate yourself. Number one, Bigger Pockets. You've probably already heard about it if you've been interested in this space. This is a website, an online forum, and a series of podcasts. They have a bunch now that are not necessarily focused on real estate. Find the one that's focused on real estate. Listen to podcasts. I mean, you will build your knowledge up extremely quickly. So listen to podcasts, listen to one a day. This isn't very complicated. You're going to increase your knowledge extremely quickly, but you're going to want to increase your knowledge by listening to podcasts, okay? The other one is going to be books, obviously, right? And I'm going to give you the number one book you should purchase if you want to get into this space. I've shared it before. Go on Amazon and buy it right now. Just trust me. It's called Be in the Top 1% by Bob Helms. And in that book, he outlines everything that I've shared with you, why it's such a great opportunity, but he also outlines the main terminology that you need to know to speak with investors and the basics of how to analyze a deal. Right? And these are the skills you need to acquire. This is the barrier to entry. You need to know the terminology. You need to be able to have a conversation where you can ask them, what are you looking for in terms of cash on cash return? What are you looking for in terms of monthly cash flow? You need to understand the expense terms like capital expenditures and vacancy rates and all this good stuff. It's really not complicated, but you've got to know the basics. So spend your time listening to Bigger Pockets podcasts. Read Be in the Top 1% by Bob Helms, and you can also go to local real estate investing groups. This is a great way to get into front of people who are actually doing deals. And not only will you increase your knowledge to service investors, you'll also make legitimate connections with local investors. So now these groups, they're not scammy, but you do get a lot of people like anything else that are just looky-loos. You get a lot of people trying to sell their services, which is fine. That goes with any kind of gathering like that. But I do think they're worth your time. In my area, there's the Atlanta Real Estate Investing Group, and then there's the Georgia Real Estate Investing Group. So just go search Facebook groups or just Google groups in your area. There's probably a RIA in your area that you can join some of these meetings for free or pay a small membership. It's definitely worth it. So that's how to educate yourself. And at that point, when you do have leads coming in, you'll be able to speak to these people at a high level. But how do you generate the actual leads? Well, I mentioned one tactic, which was going to the RIA meetings, real estate investing meetings. You'll get in front of these people, you're gonna have simple conversations. If you speak with someone who seems like they might be good to work with, you get their information. That's very straightforward. Here's my favorite technique, okay? I've shared this before. I still think it works. I still know it works. So Bigger Pockets has investment forums where you can create a profile. Back when I did it, it was free. There's probably a cost for premium. The last cost I can remember was like $99 a year. I'm sure it's more expensive now. It's not that much. It's definitely worth it. But what you're going to want to do, number one, is create a great profile. You can probably still go on Bigger Pockets, even though I'm not very active there, and check out my profile and get inspiration. But when people reach out to you, what they're going to do is look at your profile, and you want to have a great profile about who you are, how you can service investors, and even better, if you've made any video content about investors or about deals, that should be on that page so that when they visit your page on Bigger Pockets, it's very legitimate and it's providing value. But why are they going to look at your profile? Because you're going to post in the forums every day. Okay, you can create a very simple habit of spending, 30 minutes a day in the forums. The first thing you're going to want to do is set up keyword search terms, so that anytime someone posts a post or comments a certain keyword on the forums, you will get an email notification. So obviously I want to keep that local. So for me, it's like Atlanta or the Beltline or any of the neighborhoods that I know are good spots for investors, or Georgia real estate investing, right? Any of the keywords that could be someone that would be good for you to connect to. All right, and then you're going to be notified. And so when you start your daily routine, you're going to go look at those notifications and you're going to look for opportunities to provide value. People on these forums will be asking questions about neighborhoods, the trajectory of areas, investment strategies, developments. Look for any opportunity that you can as a local to that area to answer their question, right? And if you need to research some information to answer them, that's fine, right? Take as much time as you need to provide these people value, and they'll definitely reach out to you. Now, yes, there are going to be a lot of realtors on there doing the same thing, but this is all about consistency. The cream rises to the top. I promise you, if you create a habit of doing this, of providing people value on the forums just by answering simple questions, and you have a great profile set up so when they go check you out, they're even more interested, you're going to start having consistent meetings with real estate investors. So that's my number one tip for generating free real estate investor leads. I promise you it works, but you can apply this mindset to other arenas as well. So another one is Facebook groups, right? In your local area, if you search real estate investing and add your city, there's going to be at least 15. I mean, if you're in a small area, maybe less. I'm in Atlanta. There's probably more than 25 Atlanta-focused real estate investing groups. Now, some will be not very active, some will be extremely active, but join them all, right? This is going to get you into their world. This is going to be another opportunity for you to provide value by answering their questions and overall just connect. You'll also find opportunities to go to meetups very often. So it is very easy to get plugged into this community because all of these people want to connect with others, right? Retail buyers and sellers have no reason to want to connect with a group like that, right? And they don't really want to talk with strangers because it's a very personal thing. These are groups of people and real estate investors who want to connect, they want to gain information. So be encouraged. It is very easy to generate real estate investor leads. Even if you just started to post content about areas in your neighborhood that you think would be great for investment and you do the right hashtags and titles and it's actually valuable information, you're going to generate free leads from social media that way as well, whether it's YouTube, Instagram, or TikTok. So at the end of the day, to generate as many investor leads as you could ever want, you need to develop your knowledge. You need to provide value to investors by sharing that knowledge. And then you need to have an impressive profile or content for them to see when they come check you out. And I promise you'll have more leads than you know what to do with. All right, so we've got a bunch of real estate investor leads, which is fantastic, but how do we make sure we don't waste our time? I mentioned earlier I was going to share with you there's only one kind of investor I currently service. Now, what does that mean? I turn people away? Yes, very consistently, okay? And this isn't meant to sound arrogant, but I turn down meetings all the time with investors who are out of state and haven't done a deal before. Just because you have to protect your time. Otherwise, you're going to be run ragged. You can't run a successful business without boundaries. So I do have to say no to the majority of investors that reach out to me, which can be discouraging. Now, if you're brand new and you've got nothing going on, I mean, go for it. You know, I'm just telling you, as you become more successful, your time becomes more valuable. So who will I talk to? So here's my criteria, okay? Number one applies to out-of-state investors. I will only speak to out-of-state investors who have already purchased a deal in my area and can show me exactly what made them purchase the deal and how they sourced it. Why? Because number one, I know they're legitimate, and number two, I know exactly what to look for. You see, I didn't mention this that much before, but your number one time waster is just searching the infinite void for good deals, and you have no idea where to look because there was no intelligent parameters put on your search. Whereas with this person I'm talking about, they already have parameters, they've already executed, and I'm assuming they're already happy with the deal that they got. So all I need to do is find a very similar deal, right? So that's a certain location, a certain property type, a certain budget. Now, again, finding good deals is not easy, but at least I know exactly what I'm looking for. This makes it extremely effective. And if you bring them an extremely similar deal where the numbers make sense and they don't purchase it, what are you doing, right? I mean, that is a red flag right there, and you can just stop as far as I'm concerned, right? So it's a great litmus test in that, okay, this is what you bought. Here is something extremely similar. Here's the numbers, they make sense. You should definitely buy this, right? If you do, great. I'm gonna keep finding you similar types of deals. And because I've helped this person actually close a deal, I'm way more likely to, we can look for a new property type in a new neighborhood, but only after we've closed a deal. And if they tell you, I don't wanna purchase it, what are we doing, right? We both agreed this is what you're looking for. These are the parameters. It checks all the boxes. what are we doing? Not too dissimilar when you're working with buyers and you find a home that checks literally all their boxes and they don't want to put an offer in. You got to take a step back and say, what is the holdup here, right? How can we get you ready to pull the trigger? So those are for out-of-state clients. Now for in-state clients, in particular clients that are in your metro area, I am definitely more lax about this. And I'll give you kind of the tier structure of who I'm likely to work with. Number one, house hacking. If you have a new investor who's looking to house hack, I will absolutely work with this person. Why? Because they're also looking for a primary residence, right? So the whole process is going to be much easier. It's going to be easier for them to qualify. It's going to be easier to find a deal because it does not need to cash flow $500 a month, right? When you're helping someone buy a house hack, really, you just want to find a good property in a good neighborhood that offsets the majority of their living expenses. And it's not that hard to do. And you know exactly what to look for. You're going to be looking for a multifamily property, depending on their budget, duplex through quadplex, or you're going to be looking for a home with a finished basement and a separate kitchen, or you're going to be looking for a lot with a home and an ADU so they can rent out multiple units. Or you're going to be looking for a house with a bunch of rooms because they want to do pad split and they want to rent out every room. Either way, you have clarity on what to look for. So do you see the theme I'm trying to get at with this? Really, at the end of the day, the difference between investors I'll work with, investors I won't work with, is clarity. And I can only help so much with that clarity, right? They really have to get to that point by themselves. So if there's clarity, I will work with them. So I'll definitely work with house hack investors. Now, the second tier would be someone who already has a rental in the area and they want another rental, and it's not going to be their primary residence, but again, they can show you exactly what they're looking for. Now, this can range quite a bit. This could be, one individual with one rental property and he wants to slowly add to it, or it could be a very high net worth individual with a lot of properties who, again, needs more deal flow, but because they're local and they can show you exactly what they are buying, you have a greater likelihood of being able to help them find those deals. All right. So this does range quite a bit, but again, I am more inclined to work with these people because they've done it before and I know what to look for. Now, the lowest tier that's local would be people looking to flip. Now, flipping is a business unto itself. It is real estate investing, but it's kind of in its own category. I mean, if you want to be a flipper, you're basically starting a small business, and there's a lot of moving parts to that. So I will work, again, with people who have already flipped and know what deals they're looking for and already have their vendors in place, right? I am not looking to provide someone who's flipping with every point of contact that they need, right? Especially a contractor. You've got to find your own contractors, right? Because that's freaking hard to do. And at the end of the day, you're the one that has to trust them. Now, of course, I provide my clients with vendor referrals, but I'm just saying the people that I'm going to work with have to have this stuff in place already. They have to have a good contractor that'll go look at a deal. They have to have their financing prepared and ready to go. They have to have their property management company that they're going to use ready to go. And then at that point, all I have to do is help them find that type of deal that they've purchased before. But flipping in particular can be very difficult because the margins have to be there. You have to purchase it at such a discount that when you add in the rehab, you can still net a certain profit and make it worth it within that time frame. So those are the investors that I will work with, okay? People who have already purchased deals in my area and who can show me exactly what they're looking for. So there you have it. I know that was a lot of information. I'm really passionate about this topic. Now, don't feel too discouraged. This can absolutely be a worthwhile venture, especially if you plan to invest in real estate yourself. Honestly, even if you don't want to work with investors, I would still encourage you to educate yourself with the resources I gave and plug yourself into the communities that I mentioned. It will be massively beneficial for you. But if you do want to work with investors, listen, it is still a fantastic opportunity. The cream rises to the top, and even more so in this niche because very few people take the time to really educate themselves and understand what value looks like for real estate investors. So you can very easily rise to the top of realtors in your area servicing investors. Honestly, If you think about market dominance, it is very hard to overtake retail market leader in your area. They're established, they have ties in the community, they have experience. On the investor side, you could become the number one investor client realtor in your market pretty easily. I mean, there may be someone who's crushing it in your market, but you can be in the top, certainly 10% within a year. Honestly, within a year, you could probably be in the top 10% for investor-focused realtors in your area, just because there's so few people serving this niche and so few people want to do the work that it requires. But at the end of the day, you've got to protect your time. Please protect your time, because all the time that you're potentially wasting with investors who will never execute is time you could have spent generating leads for your business, which is the fuel for your engine, right? So make sure that you never do anything that sacrifices the time you spend every day generating leads, whether it's investor leads or retail leads. It doesn't matter. You've got to generate leads. That is your major bottleneck in your business. So there you have it. I'm kind of tired of talking. Love working with investors, but only certain kinds. I wish you all the best. I hope you go crush it, and I'll see you next time.